Hey gang, welcome back. This is Brooklyn Pony Part 30. For those of you that may have just found my videos and my channel, this is a 1966 Mustang that when I started working on it was basically just breaking it into pieces. And so I'm rebuilding this car, and if you're interested in seeing more, go back and look at the other videos to give you some idea what's going on. In this video I want to talk about the fenders. And I did another video previously also about the fender and the door fitment, but this one I want to deal with something else. And let me point out that these fenders were out of the box that said Dynacorn on the box, and I can tell you that ultimately they may or may not make their own fenders at this point, but the box that I opened up, and if you go back to see the videos on that, basically they had their sticker added to the box, so it wasn't printed on the box. So my impression is that these are your basic generic fenders that Dynacorn labels as their own. With that said, I want to just go over some things that are going to be an issue or can be an issue, and they should be addressed. And if you follow my videos, you know I like details and I like to share these details. And so as I was prepping this fender, I'm getting ready to put some epoxy on this side of the car, and I was going through that process. I started to pay more attention to the wheel well, or the wheel opening, or the wheel arch, however you want to label it. And I noticed that the angle here, and I'll show you in a second a better view, but the angle of the flange is very odd on this fender, and also the width of the flange is quite wide. And on original fenders, this flange would have been more level to the ground, let's say. And this one is at an angle. And again, I'll show you that in just a second. But this fender, you can see how wide that flange is. And even in the, hopefully you can see, I know it's kind of hard to tell with all the black of the panel, but I'll do some measuring and show you that. On the driver's side fender, it's not as wide, and also the angle is better, and I'll do another camera view on that to show you what I'm talking about. But I think this needs to be addressed, primarily because not just from a looks standpoint, but from a use standpoint. Whenever these tires and wheels interact with the fenders, you obviously want to have as much clearance as you can get. Especially with this situation where this car is sitting lower than a factory Mustang. And in other videos I talk about the clearance issues, and you can go back and look at those if you want. But let me set up the camera at a different angle and show you what I'm talking about with this flange. So let me show you what I'm talking about. The original fender, this angle would have been much lower. So I'm going to put a paint stick up against that and compress it against, and you can see how high this angle is, when the factory should be something like that. This side is worse than the other side, and I'll show you that side as well. So let's do a comparison of the driver's side fender. Again, Dynacorn on the box. We'll compare that to the passenger side fender. So same paint stick, I press up on it, and you can see the angle is not as severe. So this side I don't know that I want to do much with. I may dolly that up just a little bit to try to flatten this a little more. But there's another issue too, and it has to deal with the width of this flange. And I want to look at another fender. The fender that was on this car, I don't know if it was a factory original fender or not. I don't know the history of it. I can only assume it's a factory fender. But I want to show you a comparison between these two fenders and that fender. So here is the fender that came on this car, and I thought I could use this fender originally, but it's kind of twisted and out of shape, and it would be very difficult to try to save it. That's why I'm using these other fenders. But this one has a very, well, say narrower flange, but also if I push against it with the paint stick, you can see the angle is very low. Now this fender is kind of leaning that way a little bit. I can't line it up exactly like it is on the car. If I did, this would actually appear lower. So, just so you can see kind of what I'm talking about. So I want to do another comparison here. If I measure the width of this flange with my caliper, that's coming in at 755. If I come down here and I measure it, sorry, there we go. That is 930, and it's slightly narrower there at the front. Now I'll compare that to the driver's fender. Same locations, roughly the same locations. This one is 615, and back here, it's kind of hard to see it, but the width is only 582 roughly, and the front is very similar to that width. Now let's compare that to the original Fender. That width is 578, so that's a good number. And it does get a little bit wider in the back. That's 745. And the front is very similar. So I guess my point is, you know, when these are manufactured, there's going to be variances. And some of these details may be trivial. Some people may look at it and go, why are you worrying about such little things? And really, it's not that I'm worried about little things as much as I am in trying to make it look right. The idea that this flange is angled bothers me. For the most part, that's my conflict. I would rather see it go up than for it to be angled down. This makes it closer to the tire, and also could be a problem later on, say in a turn with some compression on the spring, turn the tire. And again, these tires that I have on here are much bigger, let's say, than what's going to be on the car. But still, the point being, there could be an issue, and I don't want that. I want everything to be taken care of before it ever gets to paint. And this is part of my process. So my plan is I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to shorten this flange, take a cut wheel or a cutoff wheel and narrow it up, and then I'm also going to take a hammer and angle it up, try to flatten it out throughout the perimeter. Again, it may be a small detail, but to me it's the details that make all the difference. Now the idea here is to cut this flange before I roll it or dolly it up. The reason for that is I'm going to have, you know, that much width to work with. If I try to move that, if I try to compress that up, that metal on the backside is going to have to stretch to accommodate the movement. By having less material, that means it's less effort. It won't have as much stress on it when I start doing that. So I'm going to trim this down. And basically, it's not going to be very complicated. I'm just going to take a silver Sharpie. Hopefully I have enough ink or whatever this is in here, and draw a line. And that's just a reference line. So I have something to cut to. Let's see if this one's any better. Yeah. And all I'm doing is using my finger as a guide, putting it against that flange, kind of eyeballing where I want it to be, and then just following it. It makes a nice straight line. Now if I want to, I can take my caliper and do a rough measurement on that, and see what it comes up with. So in this case, it's about 630, and I think if I were to compare that to the width of 740, that's 100 thousandths. I may go even a little bit more. I may cut that line off completely, and that'll be a lot closer to the goal that I want, which is around 575, I think. This is the cutoff wheel that I'm going to use. This is from Harbor Freight. See how much I removed. That's already a lot better. Let's see what I can come up with here. About 580. Close enough. So now I want to roll this flange up just a little bit. And I'm just going to use a basic body hammer. And I may use, I'm not sure yet, this body hammer is designed for putting door skins on, but it does have a nice narrow face, so I may use that a little bit too. As always, I will point out, I'm not trying to do this all at one time. I'm trying to do a little bit at a time and gently roll it upward. Let me give you a closer look. Much nicer. That's a lot closer to copying the factory style shape. And we'll do the paint stick look again. So now let's take another look with the paint stick. much, much nicer. And I know I say it a lot, but when I say that I'm happy with that, but I'm happy with that. I like it. So that'll be it for this video. I know you like longer videos, but I like to give you some things that are maybe a little more detailed. Even though it's a small, short video, it gives you some idea of some of the things that you may look for or you may want to do to your car. So, not that hard. Simple cutoff wheel, hammer and dolly or hammers, and a little bit of time, and you can make this look real nice, even close to what the factory style was. So again, thank you for watching. Please throw a thumbs up on there, like, share, subscribe, all those cool things. And I'm kind of curious. I think I'll do a little bonus here. I'm going to test fit the wheel that's going to be on this car, but I'm also going to test fit the wheel from Jade. Some of those wheels that I got, or one of the wheels that I got, I don't know, last year sometime. We'll see how that looks. That looks really nice. Now the jack is just sitting underneath the car right now. It's not lifting it at all. And of course it is sitting a little higher than it normally would because there's obviously no engine or transmission in it. But that's going to look really nice. Well, it looks okay. I like the other one better. This one, these definitely belong on the 68, and that's where they'll be, obviously. But yeah, I like the first one better.